There is a small pool of water in the lower Mni Sota River valley that has astonished people for as long as anyone here has kept memory. Its surface is not calm. In patches it churns and roils and bubbles up from below, as though the water were boiling over a hidden fire, and then, just as suddenly, it falls still again. Yet if you dip your hand in, the water is cold, colder than the November air. Come with me down a short trail on the edge of Shakopee, and let me show you a place the Dakota have called sacred for centuries, a spring where the earth itself seems to breathe. We are in Scott County, in the lower valley of the Mni Sota River, just southwest of the Twin Cities. The springs lie right along the border between the cities of Shakopee and Savage, tucked into the bottomland where a small stream called Eagle Creek winds toward the river. It is an easy place to miss, a pocket of water and woods hemmed in by highways and growing suburbs. But this modest creek is one of the rarest waters in the whole metropolitan area, and the pool at its head is one of the oldest sacred sites in Minnesota. To understand why, we have to start with the water itself. The walk-in is short and gentle, less than half a mile along a quiet path. There is no climbing here, no rush of a waterfall to guide you, only the soft give of the trail underfoot and the bare gray branches of late autumn overhead. The land is flat, a broad terrace of the old river valley, and the creek keeps you company somewhere off to the side. It is the kind of unremarkable approach that gives no hint of what waits ahead. And then the trees open, and the ground reveals its secret. Here, Eagle Creek widens out into an almost perfectly circular pool, a clear basin set into the sand and mud of the valley floor. The water is glassy and transparent, so clean you can see straight down to the pale bed beneath. Around its edges, the current barely seems to move, and in the low light it could pass for an ordinary woodland pond. But keep your eyes on the surface, and you will notice something is not right. In places, the sand at the bottom is alive. Watch one patch of the pool long enough and it will suddenly erupt. A cloud of fine sand billows up from the bottom, the water above it churning and boiling in a slow, silent surge. Then after a few moments the eruption dies away, the sand settles, and that spot goes quiet, only for another patch nearby to begin its own boiling. There is no heat, no steam, no smell of sulfur, just this steady, restless breathing of the earth. People have stood at this edge for generations, watching the ground come to life, and asking the same question you are asking now. The answer lies beneath the pool, in what geologists call an artesian spring. Deep under the valley, water is held in layers of sand and rock under great pressure, pressed down by the weight of the land and water above it. Where that pressure finds a path to the surface, the groundwater is forced upward, rising steadily into the bed of the creek. It does not need a pump or a slope to climb. The pressure alone drives it up and out into the pool. This is the engine that keeps the water moving, all day and all night, all year long. The boiling itself comes from the sand. A thick layer of fine, loose sand covers the bottom of the pool, and as the rising spring water pushes against it, the sand clogs the opening and holds the pressure back. The water builds behind it until, all at once, it breaks through and erupts in a plume, tossing the sand upward in that churning boil. Then the sand settles back, seals the vent again, and the slow buildup begins anew. It is not fire that makes this water boil, but the simple, patient physics of pressure and sand, repeating over and over for thousands of years. Kneel down at the edge and the illusion only deepens. The water looks like it should be scalding, and yet reaching toward it you feel a coolness rising off the surface. The spring emerges at close to the constant temperature of the deep earth, cold and clear in every season. In the heat of a Minnesota summer it stays cool, and in the depth of winter it refuses to freeze. That steady, unchanging temperature is the second gift of the spring, and it transforms the little creek that flows away from here. Below the springs, the water gathers into Eagle Creek and runs clear toward the Mni Sota River, a ribbon of cold water only a little over 2 miles long. Because it is fed almost entirely by that steady discharge of groundwater, the creek behaves unlike the warm, muddy streams around it. Its water is famously, astonishingly clear, so transparent that the instruments used to measure clarity often cannot find its limit. It runs cold in summer and stays open and flowing through the hardest winter. In a landscape of prairie rivers, Eagle Creek is a strange and precious thing. The path drifts alongside the creek, and it is worth slowing down to walk with it a while. The water slides past low and quiet over its clean bed, curling around fallen branches and undercut banks. Even in November, there is a freshness to the air here, the cool breath of moving groundwater that never quite lets the cold settle in. Birds work the brushy edges, and the stream keeps up its soft, continuous murmur. It feels like a hidden seam of wilderness stitched into the edge of the suburbs. That cold, clean, year-round water makes Eagle Creek one of the very few trout streams in the entire Twin Cities region. It holds a self-sustaining population of brown trout, fish that reproduce here on their own rather than depending on yearly stocking. Brown trout need cold, clear, well-oxygenated water to survive, and the springs deliver exactly that, straight from the ground. For anglers in a metropolis of millions, a wild trout stream this close to home is close to a miracle. And every one of those fish owes its life to the boiling pool upstream. Look into the water as you walk, and you can read the story of its coldness. It runs bright and untroubled, without the brown cloudiness of a rain-fed stream, because it is born underground rather than falling from the sky. That is also why it never freezes solid, why steam sometimes rises off it on the coldest mornings, while the land around lies locked in ice. The creek carries the memory of the deep earth in its temperature and its clarity alike. To find where that memory comes from, we have to look down, into the ground beneath our feet. Underneath this valley lie thick beds of sand, gravel, and porous rock, laid down over immense spans of time. Rain and snowmelt sink slowly into these layers and travel underground for years, filtered clean and cooled to the steady temperature of the earth. Held under pressure between denser layers, this hidden water is always seeking a way back to the surface. At boiling springs, it finds one, welling up through the sand of the pool. The spring you are watching is really a window into a vast, slow, invisible river flowing through the ground. Lift your eyes from the creek and take in the shape of the land around you. This is a broad, flat-floored valley, far wider than the modest river that runs down its middle. On a walk like this, it is easy to take that width for granted, to assume a river simply makes the valley it flows through. But the Mni Sota River is nowhere near large enough to have carved a trench this size. The valley we are standing in was cut by something far more violent and far older than any river alive today. To find its maker, we have to go back more than 10,000 years, to the end of the last ice age. As the great ice sheets melted, they left behind an enormous lake in the north called Glacial Lake Agassiz, larger than all of today's Great Lakes combined. When that lake overflowed its southern rim, it drained through a single colossal channel that geologists call Glacial River Warren. That torrent poured across what is now Minnesota, and it did not trickle. It raged, one of the mightiest rivers the continent has ever known. Its floodwaters gouged out the deep, broad valley that the Mni Sota River merely inherits today. Geologists have a name for a stream too small for its valley. They call it an Underfit River. The Mni Sota River is a textbook example, a quiet, modest stream winding along the floor of a canyon carved by a giant. Where Glacial River Warren once roared a mile wide, today's river meanders lazily through marsh and bottomland woods. The Great Flood ceased thousands of years ago, but its trench remains, a vast empty trough draped across southern Minnesota. Everything in this valley, including our little spring, sits inside the ghost of that lost river. Standing here on the valley floor, you can just sense the scale of what happened. The land runs flat and level for a long way before rising toward the wooded bluffs that mark the valley's ancient banks. Those distant slopes are the shorelines of the flood, the edges where the raging water finally stopped. In between lies this wide plain of sand and silt, the sediment the river dropped as it drained away. It is a landscape built entirely by water, first in a single catastrophe, and ever since in the patient work of springs. The valley that Glacial River Warren left behind is a stupendous feature, running straight across the whole of southern Minnesota. In places it stretches miles wide and drops well over 200 feet below the surrounding farmland, a canyon the modern landscape can barely explain. Down near the Twin Cities where we are walking, the old flood channel swings north and east toward the Mississippi. Its floor is now a patchwork of river, marsh, lake, and woodland, threaded by highways and towns. All of it was scoured out in a geological instant, by water on a scale almost impossible to picture. That ancient flood did more than dig the valley. It laid down the very sands that make the springs possible. As the meltwater slowed and spread, It dropped vast quantities of sand and gravel across the valley floor in broad, flat terraces. Those porous deposits became a natural reservoir, soaking up rain and holding groundwater like an enormous sponge. Where that buried water finds pressure and a path, it rises again as a spring. So the boiling pool and the Ice Age flood are really one long story, water carving the land, and then rising back up through it. The trail settles into a calm, unhurried rhythm here, the creek gliding along beside it. It is a good place to let the geology sink in and to feel how many kinds of time are gathered in one small valley. There is the deep time of the aquifer, water that fell as rain long ago. There is the ancient time of the flood that shaped the ground. And layered over all of it is a human story reaching back thousands of years, for people have known and honored this water far longer than any city has stood here. This whole region is the homeland of the Dakota people, who call it Mni Sota Makoce, often translated as the land where the waters reflect the skies. It is from these words, the Dakota name for this place, that the state of Minnesota takes its name. Mni Sota Makoce reaches far beyond the modern state lines, across the lakes and rivers and prairies of the upper Midwest. For the Dakota, it is not simply territory but sacred ground, a landscape woven through with story, memory, and meaning. And within it, this small boiling spring holds a place of special reverence. The Dakota name for this place is Maka Yusota, which speaks of the earth being stirred and roiled up, the very motion of the boiling sand. For centuries, the Dakota have revered these springs as a sacred site, a place where the living earth reveals itself in the moving water. To watch the ground breathe and boil without heat or fire is to witness something that asks for wonder and respect. Long before it was a curiosity for tourists or a challenge for engineers, it was a holy place. And in the belief of the Dakota, the spring is far more than water rising through sand. It is worth pausing here at the edge of the water to simply stand and watch. The pool churns and stills, in a rhythm older than any language spoken on this continent. Whatever you believe about the world, there is a hush that settles over a place like this, a sense of standing at a threshold between the seen and the unseen. Generations have come to this exact spot in reverence, to pray, to leave offerings, to listen. To honor that, it helps to know what the Dakota understood this water to be. In Dakota belief, the springs are the dwelling place of a powerful water spirit known as Unktehi. Unktehi belongs to the deep waters, to the springs and rivers and the hidden currents beneath the earth, and is regarded with both awe and caution. To the Dakota, a place where water rises unbidden from the ground was a place where such a spirit made itself known. The boiling of the sand was not a puzzle to be solved, but a presence to be respected. This understanding gave the springs a weight and a holiness that no scientific explanation replaces. Local historians have recorded Dakota traditions that tie this very spring to some of the most sacred stories of the people. One account holds that an eagle rose from these waters, and was transformed into the holy woman who brought the Dakota the sacred pipe, the gift that lies at the heart of their spiritual life. Others remembered the springs as a kind of oracle, a place where the moving water could be read for guidance in troubled times. These are sacred matters, held and carried by the Dakota themselves, and they are shared here with respect. They tell us that this small pool was and remains a place of the deepest significance. Walking on from the springs, it becomes clear that the water was only ever the center of a much larger world. This whole stretch of the lower Mni Sota River was Dakota homeland, dense with villages, gardens, trails, and gathering places. The people did not live apart from this valley but within it, moving with the seasons between river bottoms and prairie. The springs were one thread in that fabric, a sacred one, but bound to daily life all around. Just upriver from where we stand lay one of the most important of those villages. The Mni Dakota kept a summer village near the banks of the lower Mni Sota River, commonly called Tinta Otonwe, the village of the prairie. Here stood bark lodges in the warm months and teepees in winter, surrounded by plentiful cornfields, with the river itself offering protection and passage. The name Mni means the dwellers by the sacred lake, and its people had lived along these waters for generations. This was a settled, cultivated, deeply rooted homeland, not an empty wilderness, and its leaders carried a name that endures across this whole county today. The village was led by a line of hereditary chiefs known as Shakpe, a Dakota word meaning six. Tribal history tells that the very first Shakpe earned the name because he was the sixth child born of a set of sextuplets, a birth so remarkable it marked his whole family. At least 3 leaders bore the name across the generations, from the late 1700s through the 1860s, each one called Shakpe, or Little Six. They guided their people through an era of enormous upheaval as settlers pressed ever deeper into Mni Sota Makoce. Their name, worn smooth into the English spelling Shakopee, still marks this land. The city of Shakopee, whose edge we are walking today, was founded in 1851 and named directly for Chief Shakopee II. It is a rare and telling thing, a growing American town that carries, in its everyday name, the name of the Dakota leader whose people lived here first. Every road sign and letterhead bearing the word Shakopee is a small, often unnoticed monument to that history. But the story of how the town came to stand where the village had been is not a gentle one. It belongs to a painful chapter that deserves to be told with care. In 1851, in treaties signed at Traverse des Sioux and Mendota, the Dakota were pressured into ceding vast portions of their homeland to the United States. A Dakota leader named Eagle Head kept a village at these very springs until the community was forced to evacuate in 1853. A decade of broken promises, lost land, and hunger followed, and in 1862 it erupted into the United States and Dakota War, a brief and devastating conflict along the Mni Sota River. In its aftermath came mass hangings, imprisonment, and the forced exile of most Dakota people from Minnesota altogether. It is a history of profound loss, and it should never be softened or hurried past. And yet the Dakota did not vanish from this valley. Descendants of the Mni people returned to the lands around Shakopee and Prior Lake, where today the Shakopee Mni Sioux community stands as a sovereign, federally recognized tribal nation. Its members are the direct lineal descendants of those who lived in the villages along this river, and they remain active stewards of the places their ancestors held sacred. Mni Sota Makoce is still, for the Dakota, a living homeland, and Maka Yusota is still a holy place within it. The springs did not stop boiling, and the people did not stop returning. Before we go, it is worth knowing that this fragile place is now protected, for the land around Eagle Creek became Minnesota's first aquatic management area, and the boiling springs were added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2003. In a single short walk of less than half a mile, we have crossed an Ice Age flood, a hidden underground river, a rare wild trout stream, and a sacred site thousands of years deep. Places like this survive only when we choose to notice them, to learn their stories, and to treat them with the reverence they have always been owed. I hope this quiet spring stays with you and sends you looking for the sacred, hidden waters near your own home. Thank you for watching. Follow for more of the trails of the world.